You're listening to Ideal Practice, episode number 160. Today, guys, we're going to talk about something that I have not covered so far here with you all. And that is, how do you keep your practice, your business going when your life feels like it's fallen apart? Yeah, that's what we're going to cover today. And you might need this. So, stay tuned. Hi, I'm Wendy Pitts-Reeves, and with over 2 decades of experience in the private practice world, I've built my 6-figure business while learning a lot of lessons the hard way. This is the first podcast that shows you how to apply the principles of energy, alignment, and strategy to build a practice that is profit-centered, but people-forward. This is the Ideal Practice Podcast. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Ideal Practice Podcast. This is Wendy Pitts-Reeves, your host, and I'm so glad to be hanging out with you today. As always, you really are the highlight of my week. Today's conversation is about something that we don't talk about very much here on the practice, and that is, how do you manage a business, keep things afloat, tend to your clients, take care of yourself, when the rest of your life is really hard. And if you've been on the planet for any length of time, you may have already run into this. If not, you will run into this. Whether it's coping with a child with special needs, whether it's going through a divorce, whether it's coping with illness, whether it's dealing with elderly parents, life happens to all of us. And just because we are healers who own a business doesn't mean it doesn't happen to us too. But how do you keep that going? How do you tend to your staff, take care of your clients, make sure that the income keeps flowing in, and be there for your family, or for that matter, for yourself, all at the same time? Well, today's guest is going to help us with this. Today, you get to meet Gordon Brewer. Gordon is a licensed marriage and family therapist who practices in Upper East Tennessee. It was a real treat, y'all, to have a fellow Tennessean on the show today. I have to tell you that. And Gordon has a very wide-ranging and varied background. This is not his first career. He has a variety of experiences both in the mental health world and as a business owner, and had a lot to teach us about how you cope, how you keep things going when everything around you feels like it's falling apart. So I think you're going to enjoy this. He has worked in the human services and mental health fields for over 30 years. He's done agency work. He's been in private practice since the early 2000s. He's been an adjunct instructor at East Tennessee State University. It's so funny. We had all kinds of things in common the more I learned about him. But the main thing is he brings a lot of wisdom, a lot of compassion, and I think some really, really helpful guidance about how we can navigate the storms that are still going to come and that we still have to get through, even when we run a business. So, without further ado, let's get into the interview. All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Ideal Practice Podcast. I'm so happy to be hanging out with you today. And you've already heard a little bit about today's guest. So let me go ahead and say hi and just bring Gordon on. Gordon, say hi.
Hello. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you here. So for folks who don't know, you and I actually are not quite neighbors, but in the podcast world, we're practically neighbors. You're only a couple of hours up the road from me.
Right.
And you didn't remember, but we have met one time in person in Colorado at a conference a few years ago.
Yes. You reminded me of that. Yes.
I'm so glad to connect with you here and to get to know a little bit more about your work. So I always like to start by let's just kind of get oriented. Tell everybody, I love to tell people, where are you? Because that's one of my favorite things to talk about in the world. And who do you serve and how do you serve them?
Yes. Well, again, thanks for having me, Wendy, on the podcast. I'm located in Kingsport, Tennessee, which is in the northeast corner of Tennessee in a small metropolitan area called the Tri-Cities. And we're like Wendy, located in the beautiful Appalachian Mountains. So it's just a beautiful place to live and just get all four seasons for the most part. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's great. But I own a small group practice called Kingsport Counseling Associates and have six clinicians that work for me and one admin. And so been in private practice, I guess, all total since around 2006 or so, and then
Okay.
started my group practice in 2014. I made the decision not to grow into a huge practice. I like the size I am, and my staff is just great. And so I
Mm,
really enjoy them and just really
mm,
appreciative, grateful for them. And then also, some people probably know me from my podcast, The Practice of Therapy. And I
right.
started getting into consulting around 2016 or so, and then started the podcast. I guess in the early days, I'm using air quotes
Yeah,
here,
for real.
of the podcasting world in 2017. I was listening to other private practice podcasts, and I thought, well, I'll throw my hat in the ring and figure out what people want to hear. And so yeah, so my podcast comes out weekly, and we're getting ready to celebrate my 400th episode here
Y'all,
before
he's
too
so far
long.
ahead of me.
And
So far ahead of me.
well, I never compare your beginning part to somebody else's middle part or end
Right.
part. So yeah,
Right.
that's what I always say. But yeah, and so I'm moving, starting to think about retirement here before too long, and so been thinking about what that would look like.
Yeah.
Part of my story too is that I'm a widower, a widowed, or however you want to say that, and
Mm,
yeah, so I went through a period where I was taking care of my late wife, and we were just all that was involved in her caregiving. And so I've been
mm-hmm.
been in the world of being a caregiver, and then also running a practice and all the other things that I've involved in. And so yeah, so that's part of my story. The other thing too that people might
Yeah.
find interesting is I'm also a clergy person in the Episcopal Church, and
That's right. I
so.
forgot about that.
Um,
Yeah.
and so I'm assigned to what they refer to as a vocational deacon. So really my ministry is in the world, and a big part of what I do is my counseling practice and, helping people in those ways. But
I've
I
never
also
heard the
tell
term.
people,
I've never heard that term vocational deacon before. I thought that was
yeah,
really
yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's as I like to tell people, on Sundays I wear the funny collar. Or somebody said one time, "Oh, Gordon, you've got your shirt on backwards today." So yeah, so I wear a clerical collar on Sundays and that kind of thing. But I also tell people that in the counseling world, in my therapy practice, I don't have a religious agenda with any of that. But if those are ever things people want to talk about or need
Mm-hmm.
to talk about, I'm happy to talk about those things. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I don't consider myself. A lot of people refer to it as a Christian counselor or a biblical counselor or
Right.
those kinds of things. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not at all. I stick to very clinical practices,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
so
You
yeah.
have a lot of irons in the fire. You are a serial entrepreneur, I think, from the sound of it, or just a really creative guy who likes trying new things. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I would say I've got a little bit of a squirrel brain, and then I get
Uh-huh.
distracted by a lot of things, and so yeah, I've always just enjoyed doing a lot of different things, and yeah, one of the things I'm working on in my therapy is not to do so much. So,
I
yeah, yeah, so
get that.
yeah, yeah.
I love all of that. And I just remembered you've started a second podcast, haven't you? If I remember reading
I
that.
did.
Yeah.
I did. It's kind of been shelved for a few years now, but I
Oh,
do
okay.
intend to start it back up. But
Okay.
it's still out there, and there's a few episodes if anybody wants to go find it. It's called the Kindness and Compassion Podcast, and it's really looks at the intersection between psychology and self-help and religion and spirituality and all of those kinds of topics.
Mm-hmm.
So I've interviewed a lot of people that are faith leaders and that kind of thing, but also
Yeah.
people like us that are in the therapy world and that kind of thing about
Yeah.
just really how we can live into more kindness and compassion, not only towards ourselves, but others in the world. And really, it was my response in a way to just all the polarization that seems to be going on in the world. And, just really trying to
Yeah.
give voice to another way of living and looking at
Yeah.
things.
I was just thinking we need more of that. I read that, I think, in your bio. So what's striking to me, you and I have this in common. Like one thing is never enough. There's always like 10 things we've got going on.
Right.
Just like you. I mean, you've been in the podcast world longer than I have, but I've been running a private practice since early 90s. So like a ridiculously long time. And
Right.
like you, I had a fairly good sized private group practice for a long time. I sold that during the pandemic because I was really tired of running a group practice, but have done lots of little side gigs along the way, run lots of other businesses along the way, all while having like the counseling practice has been like the steady thing that's gone while all these other things happen
Right.
around it. Yeah. So I'm sure you can relate to that. And what strikes me right off the bat, Gordon, is that all of the things that you do have this really deep level aspect of caring woven into them. I think another thing we had in common, you've also done supervision. You also have managed interns from ETSU, which is close to you. I've done the same thing from UT. So like lots of different ways of using our skills and serving, but everything you do, including your podcast, including your group and your work with the church, is all about connecting with and supporting and serving and caring for other people. Right?
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
that's obviously a really strong thread for you.
Yes. Well, one of the things I'm sure there are some people that are familiar with the Enneagram, and
Yeah.
I've really done a lot of deep diving into that in the last few years. But I'm an Enneagram 2, which is the helper, and so I've got this ability. I guess I don't know if it's a gift or a curse or whatever, but ability to be empathic with people, have a lot of empathy with people, and really can sense a lot of what's going on with others. The downside is that a lot of times I don't sense what's going on within myself well.
Yeah.
And so, that's again stuff I work on in my own therapy, and that I feel very drawn to helping people, and I enjoy too helping people connect. I mean, I just love being able to say, well, I'd love for you to meet this person because I think you would have a lot in common with them, or those kinds of things. And and really, it's one of the reasons I started the practice of therapy. Was really helping people connect with resources and different aspects, and just different ways of doing things, and
Yeah.
really seeing that there's any number of ways to run a practice, and there's no exact right way, but I think if you find what fits for you,
Yes.
that's what's most important.
Yes. That's exactly what I mean when I talk about ideal practice. What's ideal for one person is going to be different for someone else. Absolutely.
Right.
100%. Yeah.
Right.
So are you a 2 with a 3 wing?
I'm a 2 with a 3 wing. That's exactly right. The achiever. So yeah, for a long time, at first I thought I was a 3, an achiever. I have a pretty strong 3 wing. It kind of wax and wanes depending
Yeah.
on where I am. But I really love. I like to say I'm a tinkerer. So I love to play around with things and create things, and I enjoy writing, and I enjoy just creating content for different things, and
Yeah,
I think
y'all,
with
the
the podcast,
threes are overachievers, not just high, they're
Yeah.
overachievers.
Yeah.
They do a
Right.
lot, which
Yeah.
explains
Right.
all those things
Yeah.
that you're into. Yeah.
Right. So yeah.
I love the Enneagram. I lean on it pretty heavily, actually. So just for I'm a 9 with a 1 wing, an extremely strong 1 wing.
Yes.
Yeah, a friend of mine just said recently. She said I have this massive 1 wing and this little bitty nub of an 8. So which is why I'm out
Yeah.
of balance. It's very funny.
Yeah.
Y'all, that's a whole nother conversation. We'll chase another
Oh
time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But the thing that fits here, so you're right. So the 2's on the Enneagram, and y'all, I did a whole episode on the Enneagram at some point way back in the day. We should go back and find that, and we should link to that. But the 2's really are all about supporting and helping other people. Like that is what drives them. That's what fuels them. What a perfect thing. It doesn't surprise me at all for a therapist to do that. And this caregiving thing that comes so naturally to you can be really, 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 really challenging when you are also caregiving at home. So you were kind enough to offer to tell us your story about what you've gone through with your wife, because it hasn't been that long, I think, since you've lost her.
Right.
So Would you, and that's what I want to dive into today, because so guys, those of you who are listening, if you've been following me for a while, we've talked about all kinds of things here. And we talk about strategy, we talk about, all the businessy stuff, but we also talk a lot about managing your energy and how, mindset and the sort of the soul side that you bring to your work.
Right.
And that never gets challenged the way it does when your personal life is especially challenging. And y'all,
Right.
Gordon, you don't know this, but I don't think I told you this, but I've been through a little bit of that myself over the last few years. I lost my dad to dementia last year, and have been dealing with lots and lots and lots of elder care issues. So how the heck you keep a practice going when when your home life is like really a lot? So
Yes.
tell
Yes.
us, just tell us your story. Tell us what
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah. Well, thanks for letting me share that. And I think I was listening to a podcast. I can't remember what it was, but I have a routine where I walk every morning as much as I can, and it's my time for kind of meditation and reflection and just listening to books and different things I'm interested in, which goes along with just being able to take care of yourself while you're trying to caregive and that sort of thing. But my late wife was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2010, and that coincided coincidentally with me leaving another career, which is, I guess, kind of providential in a way. I was a funeral director and worked in the funeral business for
Oh, that's right.
over 18 years prior to going back to grad school and
This
getting
is the
my.
second career for you. That's right. I
Yeah,
forgot that.
it really is. But that was in my I was in my 40s, and so it was. This would have been in the early 2000s. Well, I graduated. My degree says what? Oh, 2001
He has to turn
is
around and
when
look
I
at the
could.
wall, y'all.
Yeah. It's kind of like, oh, when was that? It was 2001. I finished my graduate degree in counseling with a concentration in marriage and family therapy. But anyway, I had graduated and I had left my job in the funeral business and then jumped into working for an agency, as a nonprofit that worked with at-risk children and youth. And so that was my first job in the mental health world. And so it was at that same time that my wife was first diagnosed with breast cancer. And so we went through that and went through the chemo, the radiation, and all of that sort of thing. And her breast cancer was a pretty aggressive form. And really, when you look at the statistics of the type that she had, if anybody's interested, it's a triple negative something something, but it's
Wow.
a pretty aggressive form of breast cancer. And so the expectancy at that point was around 5 years. And so, I had just left the agency work and transitioned into private practice, kind of
Okay.
more full time. I was
Solo? Were
also
you in a
working.
solo practice at that point?
Yes, I was
Okay.
at that point, and I had a person that I was supervising that was kind of seeing a few clients here and there. I was letting her use my office space, so it really technically wasn't a group practice. But yeah, so that coincided with me actually leaving with my graduate degree and then worked for the nonprofit all through the 2000s. So I was with them for over 9 years and kind of worked my way up the ranks in that and was a clinical consultant for them and that sort of thing. But really was being drawn to private practice. And then so I left the agency job, started my private practice, but I was also doing a part-time job within the Episcopal Church. I was the coordinator for an organization called Episcopal Appalachian Ministry. So
Mm.
had all that change going on,
Mm.
and then my wife's diagnosis.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so it
Wow.
actually worked out well for me to go into private practice at that time because my daughter was also entering high school and
Oh
was
my
involved in
gosh.
the band and all that sort of thing. So it freed me up to be able to go and do things. And also, as my wife's care increased and we had doctor's appointments and all of those kinds of things, she was able to work for a few more years after she was diagnosed, but then in 2015 she developed a brain tumor
Oh, goodness.
as a result of that. And
Mm.
so at that point we thought, okay, this is, you know, we're near the end here, but God love her. She lived another five, almost 5 years more after. Well, she passed away in 2023, but
Wow.
it was just kind of like one doctor said, we were just playing whack-a-mole with everything. Her brain
Yeah.
tumor
Yeah.
they did surgery to remove it and then full brain radiation. And so that
Goodness.
really started the decline for her, and that she developed dementia and just the shrinkage of her brain and just
Mm.
inability to walk anymore and all that
Mm.
sort of thing. But one thing that we did early on, which I think was really key for me being able to provide the care for her, is we invested in a long-term care policy.
Oh, did you?
And
Okay.
and so that was great foresight for my wife's from her standpoint, in that she
You
actually
already
worked
had that
in
in place when she got sick. You
already
already
had
had
that
that.
in place
Mm-hmm.
and everything. So I would say, if you're in your 30s and 40s, it would be well worth it for you to invest in it while the premiums are really low,
Yep.
and just maintain that, because
Yeah.
what that allowed us to do is I was able to have in-home care for her, and that
Oh,
in long-term care policy helped pay for that. And so
wow.
I had two caregivers that were coming in, and
Mm.
alternating schedules to be with her during the day. But yeah, and so we had all of that, and just it
Can I
was a
just,
very, yeah,
yeah, I just want to, every now and then I'm going to pop in because I want to sort of
yeah,
like hammer a certain point or really highlight something. The thing that is striking me already is like, just as you're talking about this, you're like, this was really fortuitous because we happened to have this cool insurance policy that happened and that helped. And I had this flexibility because I had started this new business in order to deal with a lot of insanity. And what I'm
mm-hmm,
hearing is you had a brand new business that you were going full
mm-hmm,
time in and trying to get off the ground and that needed to support
right,
your family quickly.
mm-hmm,
And you had
mm-hmm,
a early adolescent that was moving into high school and all that that brings with it while dealing with
mm-hmm,
her mama who was really sick and sort of fighting the good fight. But what a lot that is to manage all at one time,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
logistically, much less emotionally, financially, all the other things.
right,
So, wowie. Um,
yeah, yeah,
Goodness.
yeah.
So things got worse. So this was a long, slow
Yeah,
thing that you went
from
through.
the time she was diagnosed till when she passed away, it was 13 years. So,
That's a
yeah,
long time, Gordon.
yeah.
And so, and along the middle of all that, you built a group
Mm-hmm.
practice because you were
Mm-hmm.
solo at first and you were doing all this simultaneously, right?
Right, pretty much. Yeah. And so I think there's a lot when other people kind of come back and point out, oh, wow, that is a
Yeah.
lot. I think I'm always reminded of that metaphor of, boiling a frog. The heat you put them in
Yes.
the water, and the heat
Yes.
goes up, and they don't realize they're in a boiling thing. And so it was kind of
100%.
kind of like that. And so,
Yeah.
fortunately, I had just a lot of great support, and I could not have done it without the support I had through my wonderful group of friends. I have a really close group of friends and
Yeah.
community
So let's
here in church.
Let's
Yeah,
parse this out a little bit. So let's
yeah.
start. I do want to talk about how you take care of yourself and how you survive, but let's start by talking about the business piece of it. Let's start with that.
Okay.
How did
Hmm.
you tend to your staff? How did you get your systems in place? How did you have the energy, or how did you set up your business? And maybe there were certain things you did with your business to make sure you could go home and be there for your family.
Right.
Like anything in particular? How did you manage all that?
Yeah. So one of the things early on, one of the things that I really got really interested in are just systems and processes. In terms of what are the things that you have in place. One of the big things early on. It was 96 when HIPAA went into place. So
Mm.
that was a big thing of just learning different things about, okay, I need emails for my business and that sort of thing. And so then I discovered Google workspace,
Yeah.
which back then it was called G Suite,
Yep.
and so really kind of focused in on, okay, how can I take this kind of pre-made out of the box system and adapt it to a private practice? And so I worked on that a little bit and did a few courses on how I did that, but I really focused in
Yeah, I
on
bought you.
my
You created a course on that I bought from you at some point.
yes, yes,
That's right.
yes. And of course now it's, yeah, so much has changed with that since I first put that out. But one of the things that I think is real important in running the business is really having an understanding of, number one, the money side of things, of really
Yeah.
understanding how your money flows, understanding how to manage money well, how to that whole business side of things. Because where I see a lot of people kind of get themselves in trouble is they don't really think about it in terms of, how can I invest my time and money into things that are going to give me a return on the investment,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
really looking at money from, so to stop looking at money from a scarcity mentality
Yeah.
of thinking, well, if I make this money, then if I spend it, I'm gonna lose it or something. But you have to really kind of rethink that in terms of how you invest your time and your money into things, so that you think about it as getting a return on your investment. So
Mm-hmm.
I really focused in on understanding the financial side of things, which I'm a big proponent of profit first.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
think when I read Mike Michalowicz's book, it was just a huge game changer for me of just thinking about, okay, how do I allocate the money that comes in such a way that's gonna continue to grow and continue to build a reserve for yourself.
Yeah. So you
Also,
got that
when
pretty
I've
early on. Like did you
yeah,
already have those skills going into your practice, or was that
well,
something you had to figure out? Yeah.
when I first went into private practice, it was just very part time. I was still working for the agency, and then when I left the agency, I had gotten this other part time job, which was a steady income. It wasn't
Income. Yeah.
enough, but it
Yeah.
was income coming in, and my wife was still working at the time, so we had income coming in. But I knew that if I wanted to go into private practice full time, the one thing I needed to do was to have something in reserve in case I had trouble getting clients or
Mm.
something were to happen, which it did with my
Yeah.
wife's illness and all that
Yeah.
sort of thing, of having money in reserve. So, my first couple of years in private practice, I took as much as possible of that and just put it into a money market account so it could just start growing. And
Wow.
so I
Okay.
I really I really tried to bank about a year's worth of income from
Wow.
that, because I didn't necessarily need it to live on at that time, but I was able to put that away. And so
Hard and
what that
heavy. Like you
does,
were really focused on that. Really, really
yes,
focused.
yes. And
Mm-hmm.
so what that does is that takes all the pressure off when you start into private practice full time. Because
Mm.
as we know, the way business works is it can wax and wane, particularly in the mental health field.
Yeah.
Yeah, and depending on how you're set up too, is whether or not you want to be fully private pay or whether you want to accept insurance and
Yeah.
that
What were
sort of
you?
thing.
Did you have an insurance based
So,
practice?
yeah, so I've got an
Okay.
insurance-based practice, and that was a tough decision, I guess, initially. Okay, how do I want to do this? But I felt like with the demographics of the area I'm located, and also just being the helper and giving people access to things, I made the decision to be an insurance-based practice.
Okay.
Now, there's lots of pros and cons to that, but I would say the biggest pro to it is I didn't have to work real hard for referrals
Yeah.
when you're insurance based. The
Yeah.
downside is of course you end up getting less for your services per hour, but you don't have
Mm-hmm.
to spend the money on marketing your practice as much.
Mm-hmm.
My marketing budget for my practice now is basically zero. I mean,
Yeah.
other than maintaining my website and
Right.
those kinds of things, but I'm
Right.
not having to do any sort of Google ads or Facebook ads or
Yeah.
any of that kind of thing. And I think it's just because we are we've been here a while for one, and also being insurance based, a lot of that, it just makes it,
So
makes
that was
the
partly
flow of,
a values decision. Like I want to be
right.
able to serve people this way, and it was also
Hmm.
partly strategic. This I need to build this quickly, and this is an easier way to do it. So that that's what we're going to do. So
Yeah.
you're building all of that, um,
Hmm.
and getting your systems in place. Did you? Okay, so I don't want to interrupt. Just so what
Yeah,
else?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So another big move for me early on was hiring an admin person as far
Ah,
as somebody that could be our intake coordinator, because
ah,
what can happen, particularly when you're in those early stages, you start getting the phone calls, and if you don't have a way to attend to those phone calls, you're not going to be able to keep the clients, and
so
so
true, so
and
true.
so I realized I was ending up spending just a whole lot of time having to call people back and chase people down to get them scheduled and that sort of thing. And so when I hired a part-time virtual assistant, it was a big game changer for me as far as
Mm.
them being able to do the intake stuff and being able to get the appointments set and that kind of thing.
So
And
you had that
also,
pretty early on, and it wasn't
yeah,
somebody in
fair.
house, right?
Yeah, well, it was somebody in house originally. It was just
Okay.
essentially a friend of a friend that we hired, and it was actually the daughter-in-law of another therapist in town, and she was looking for some part-time work, and so we set that up. And the other thing too that was really a big game changer. And a mistake I made early on was not outsourcing the billing part of the insurance stuff earlier. I was trying to do all that myself, and that was a big mistake that I made
Man,
in
I can
trying to
relate to that. Yeah.
bootstrap too much and just
Yeah.
getting bogged down with all the systems and that kind of thing. And so worked my way through that, and then we find it ending up hiring a billing company. As a matter of fact, we were talking about him earlier, Jeremy Zug. I
Yeah.
met Jeremy at that same conference you and I were at
Oh, okay.
back in 2019 in Colorado, and we hired his company to start doing the medical billing and that kind of thing. And
Y'all,
so
and we're
I've got,
this is somebody that we have in common that he's had on his podcast that
yeah,
you're going to be
and
meeting
so
soon. Yeah, that's
yeah,
funny.
and so anyway,
Yeah.
and I guess my point being is to really look at what I was able to do is offload a lot of stuff that I was doing initially that really could be done by somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And pretty much anything in a practice other than your butt in the chair seeing people can be done by somebody else,
Yeah. True.
particularly a lot of the admin things. Now, there are different aspects of it that you might enjoy doing or not enjoy doing, but I would say offload the stuff that you don't enjoy doing first.
Yeah.
And it's nearly always a good return on the investment. If I hire somebody for $20 an hour to do that kind of thing, it absolutely pays for itself in the
Yeah.
long
Yeah.
run,
Yeah.
because even if it brings on one more new client that I wasn't able to get because I offloaded that, that pays for itself. And so
And
that's a
this
way to think
idea,
about it.
I'm really struck by the idea of hiring an admin early on because
Hmm.
I didn't have that forever. Like I was way, way far along before I ever started hiring help like that,
Hmm.
which was an extremely expensive mistake on my part. And
Right.
I'm curious, all the things that you're talking about, these are really smart ways to set up a practice, period, just to make
Hmm.
sure that your business is healthy and running well and you can have a life. But
Hmm.
were you the thing that you're saying that's new to me, the idea of having that you were so aggressive about getting savings put aside in the beginning is
Hmm.
a really great thing, and I have not heard anyone doing it to quite that extent. And
Yeah.
hiring early help. Were you doing this anyway? Because you just kind of already wired that way, or as things were happening at home, it's like I've got to get this
Hmm.
figured out because this is
Yeah.
perfect, a
Yeah.
perfect setup, a foundation for what was coming for sure.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I think I think as I like to say a lot, I've learned a lot of stuff the hard way,
Yeah,
and
you
I
and me
think
both.
yeah, I think it's one of the things is that I know about me is I'm not real good about asking for help,
Mm,
but I'd rather do it myself kind of
Yep.
thing.
Yep.
And that's one mindset I had to get over really quickly when I realized, okay, I can't do it all. It's physically impossible for me to do it all. And I was trying to do that. And it was just really affecting me. And so that was one thing I had to work through. And I think the more that you can also, and just thinking about systems and processes, like is automate what you do and invest in things that you can automate with. And
Yeah.
so getting an electronic health record system that had a patient portal attached to it. So, the way we're pretty much paperless in our practice. And I think most practices are hopefully are set up that way. But
Yeah.
you get a new client and you set them up on a patient portal and they fill out all their stuff
Yeah.
and can request appointments and that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
it just makes it easy because you're not having
Mm-hmm.
to do all that on the front end.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I
Mm-hmm.
first started into private practice, I mean, I'm dating myself. When I get a new client, I would actually mail them the physical paperwork.
I used to have
And so,
sitting on a clipboard in the lobby, and they would come in and fill it out and take. And I would say, "Get here early because you got about, several minutes worth of paperwork to do." Yeah,
right, right.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
really thinking about all the things that you can just take off your plate that could be done that you don't necessarily have to be involved in.
And every one of those, y'all, gives you energy back. Every single one
Hmm.
of those, in large ways. And not only does it help you financially in lots of ways because it does free you up to do the thing that makes the money to begin with, but
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
also all of those are little bits that just drain energy from you, and
Hmm. Hmm.
you're going to need that. You're going to need that. So I
Right.
love that you were so intentional about this from the beginning. That's great.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so was there anything else? So you already were doing that anyway while all of this was happening. So I'm sorry, what was your wife's name?
Her name, well, she went by Sister, which
Oh
is
yeah.
her nickname. Her name was Mary, but she went by Sister, and
Oh,
so everybody knew her as Sister.
I
So
love that. I
yeah.
love that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, so as sister got sicker and needed more help and needed more of your presence,
Hmm.
even with support, um, was there anything that you had to do differently in terms of scheduling, in terms of the type of clients that you took on, in terms of
Hmm.
how you handled the day to day at work?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as we talked about earlier, probably simultaneously, I was growing my group practice. I think again, knowing your numbers is real important. Is to really look at, okay, what is the income you need as a practice owner in order to sustain it, but also make sure you're paying yourself and all of those kinds of things and understanding how all of that works. So I kind of knew what I needed with that. And so I hired more therapists. And so that allowed me to be less,
Mm,
not having to see as many clients.
there
And
you
so
go.
I've pulled way back. I mean, I carry a very, very small caseload now. I mean,
Yeah.
some weeks I don't even see clients. And
Yeah.
so it's just depending on that. But what you do is you empower your staff to be able to do the stuff that they like doing and just giving them the room to do that and
Yeah.
just really looking at, I mean, I made some mistakes along the way in just running a group practice. I
Yeah.
mean,
That's a whole nother
originally I
skill set.
start
Yeah.
yeah, and so I mean, like originally, my first people were contractors, and I was actually paying them too much. I mean, and so
Mm,
I had to work through that. I mean, it was just kind of like, okay, this is a lesson learned. I didn't really look at my numbers and looked at what my margins were and all that kind of stuff. And so once I figured that out and kind of found the sweet spot for all of
mm.
that, I was able to pull back with what I was needed to do, in the practice. I was
Yeah.
still available, still around, but also just being very transparent with my staff about what was going on. Also clients, being able to let them know, hey, look, I might with the way things are going in my own life, I might have to cancel on you at the last minute just
Yeah.
because things might come up. And fortunately, everybody was very gracious about that. And then in the last months that she was alive, I just took off work. I just said,
Mm,
okay, there are a few things I do need to keep my hand on. I still do my payroll for my people, but I've got that very automated. I mean, I can do our payroll in 15 minutes or less. And
wow.
so, yeah.
Wow.
And so, being able to just have all of those things in place. And I think as much as anything it of course, communicating is so important
Yeah.
and just hiring the right people too.
Well, so I was going to ask you about clients. Let me, something I want to highlight that you just taught us, or like I want people to get this. So Gordon's throwing around a lot of important words here. Knowing your numbers, be clear about what your margins are, know what you need to bring in, return on investment. This is not stuff that a lot of us are naturally comfortable with.
Hmm.
And y'all know this because we hammer this all the time around here on this podcast.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
doing whatever it is you have to do, find the teachers that you need, find the mentors that you need, do the work that you need to do to learn that part of your business. Because what Gordon was able to do, and this is so important, because you had done the financial work up front, because you had done the systems work in setting up your practice, and then as you began to build the group, you had the freedom and the financial
Hmm.
security to be able to step away from your practice and be there for your family while still feeding your family.
Hmm. Hmm.
And your clients were able to get what they needed because you had other people in the practice and you were still supporting other clinicians. So
Hmm.
that's like a win, 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 right? In
Right,
so many
right.
ways. But it didn't
Yeah,
happen easily and it didn't happen lightly. You were very intentional about how you went about all this. So I
right.
want to highlight all that. And tell me about clients. So you said you did tell them what was going on because I was wondering how this impacted your clinical work and
Yeah.
what did you do as a therapist to sort of manage that too?
Yeah, yeah. So, well, I got a lot of, spent a lot of time doing my own therapy and would also, uh, you mentioned earlier, and this is a really important piece too, Wendy, is mentorship.
Yeah.
And I've been a part of a mastermind group with a group of very dear friends of mine. And we meet in fact, when we get done with this podcast, I'll be meeting with them.
Ah,
We meet every single week by
wow.
Zoom,
Okay.
and it's a group. I'll give a shout out to all of them because all of them are in kind of the consulting world as well. Uriah Guilford, Whitney Owens, and Jessica Tapana. We just meet with each other, and then we'll get together a couple of times a year just for a retreat with each other
Love it.
to talk about our businesses, talk about our different things that we're doing and different strategies and stuff. And just they are a huge support. And I think if it hadn't have been for them, I'm just saying, giving me honest feedback about how I was doing things and also saying, well, have you thought about doing this or have you thought
Yeah.
about doing that? Is so important in just our own development and that sort of thing. And I would say that is an investment that is just good return on the investment is to do
100%.
consulting with someone. And it might not be that you do it long term, but I think when you, particularly if you find that you're feeling overwhelmed in your practice, if you find that you're just feel like you are constantly putting out fires, hire a consultant to
100%.
walk you through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I too have been
Hmm.
part of a mastermind for many years now.
Uh-huh.
And it has, and have worked with lots of different coaches and it has it is no exaggeration to say it has changed my life
Hmm.
in a thousand ways
Sure.
and
Oh
also kept
yeah.
me afloat during the really, really tough times. So you
Right.
are
Right.
100% love that you have that and that you have
Hmm.
that on a weekly basis. Like all are
Yeah.
quite intentional about it. So that
Yeah.
also helped you figure out what to say to clients, I'm guessing. And like, how do I
Yes.
navigate the emotional waters here?
Right,
Yeah.
right. And so, yeah. And so, I think, one of the things too, I've been doing therapy like you, Wendy, for a long time. I've been, in this field. And even though we might be trained differently about self disclosure, I think a bit of self disclosure gives you a whole lot more credibility with
Yeah.
clients in
Yep.
that they recognize, okay, you're human too, and you're going through stuff too.
Yep.
And just being able to, in some ways, kind of model that for them and just
Mhm.
be able to put it out there. Do your own therapy too. I can't say that enough, is have a therapy for yourself, because, that can take different forms, but I think being able to work on your own stuff
Yes.
really goes a long way of just making
Yes.
you a better therapist. And
Y'all,
so,
I don't care what's going on in your life. Gordon is nailing something here that we also don't talk about enough here. That's exactly that. I just want to if you are a practicing psychotherapist and you have not done your own work, you are not serving your clients. So
mhm,
regardless of what's going on in your life,
right,
go get yourself a therapist. Yes, 100%.
right.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Wow.
And so, yeah, and so, recognizing too, just that changes over time too. I mean, just really thinking about all that I've gone through in the last year and a half, just with my wife's death, and just, as I've said, a period of finding the new normal, all of that kind of thing. Um,
Yeah. So that's a
you
whole
do
story
that
by
work,
itself.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but also I feel like it has made me a much better therapist. What I'm learning about myself, I can also apply and helping other people with similar issues and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. And so,
So
yeah,
Gordon, let me
it's
ask you,
all tied together.
when things were really tough,
Hmm.
I mean, goodness gracious, breast cancer is bad enough, and then you add a brain tumor and surgery and all the stuff when you've got that going on with somebody you love that you're dealing with every single day, and then you
Hmm.
go to work where all day long you are pouring into other people,
Hmm.
what happened to you in session? Were you able to, was it harder to do the work? Was work helpful in that? Like emotionally, what was, how did you separate that? Did you separate that? How did it
Yeah.
impact you, not just from a skill set, but like in terms of your emotional presence in the room? How'd you handle that?
Yeah, I think part of it is I've learned the skill of, this could be a blessing or a curse, is to compartmentalize things,
Yeah.
of being
Yeah.
able to focus on the work. And probably I learned how to do that when I was in the funeral business, because you're dealing with grief and intense situations
Yep.
day in and day out with that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's people that come to a funeral home, it's worst thing that could happen. Somebody
Yeah.
they cared about died. And so
Yeah.
that I can't think of any experience that's
That's
more
true.
intense than that in many
This wasn't your
ways.
first
But
rodeo when it came to dealing with
right. And
grief.
so I
Yeah.
learned how to, okay, I've got a job to do here. And so I'm going to
Yeah.
do my job. But also, we talked a little bit about it, the importance of self care, of really figuring out what it is that you need for yourself in order to take care of yourself. So for me, it has been my morning times when I get up and have my coffee, and I've got, do some journaling, and I do some reflecting, and then I walk. I'm fortunate to live near a green belt, and so I'm walking out in nature, and all of that sort of thing is a huge thing, and that is a non-negotiable for me. I mean, that's
Mm.
something I put into my day, that, okay, I'm not going to schedule anything else. And
Mm.
that's, you
Not
protect that
negotiable.
time, and really
Mm.
looking at that. And then also just having supports. I mean, just having friendships and people in your life that know well, and they know you well, and are there for you. Doesn't mean that they fix it or do anything like that, but it's just they're present for you, and having those people in your life. And so that is such a huge piece for that. And just really, I think, being intentional about that. Of course, my faith tradition has been a big part of that.
Hmm.
I'm not saying that that's what everybody should do, but I
For
think you have to
you.
find your own path with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, you said your tendency was not to ask for help, which I also see for it too. You're more about helping
Hmm.
everybody else, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I'm a 9, so it's the same thing. And sorry, I apologize for all the Enneagram speak, y'all, but it's sort of shorthand for a lot of things that are really helpful. If your
Uh-huh.
instinct, your natural way of being in the world, is to focus on others, and here you were going through something that took. I can only imagine, compartmentalization is one way to survive, but it will only
Hmm.
carry you so far. The feelings are still there. Did you tell your friends what was going on? Did you say, can somebody come sit with her for a while? I've got to get out of the house. Did you,
Hmm.
I've got to talk, y'all, I just need a place to be and like go to somebody's house. Like, how did you consciously and actively go for the relief that you needed in order to stay
Hmm.
present for your clients and your family? I'm so
Right,
struck
right.
by
Yeah,
just the sheer power of that space. Do you know what I mean? Like that middle
yeah,
space. I have to be there
yeah.
for her and I want to be there for her and I have to be there for them and I want to be, but oh my gosh, it's going to tear me apart if I don't do something for me.
Right,
Right.
right.
So I'm
Yeah.
just love to
And,
know
and
about
so,
that.
yeah, as I like to say, I think that's a real important thing to give yourself permission to do. And as a, again, Enneagram references is that Enneagram twos are so focused on others that we don't recognize our own stuff a lot of times. But again, with my therapist and that sort of thing, I gave myself time and permission to take a respite. So on
Mm,
every Sunday afternoon, there's a group of guys I get together with, and we're just a good group of friends, and we call it our prayer meeting on Sunday afternoon. But we get together on each other's porches. We rotate it
mm.
around, and we smoke cigars and drink craft beers. And some Sundays we designate as a brown liquor Sunday, so we
That's
drink
the kind of
bourbon or
prayer group I
scotch.
could get into.
Yeah, yeah. And so that was, again, one of those things that was pretty much a non negotiable. I said, okay, I'm going to, I'd tell my wife's caregivers, I'm going to be gone here.
Yeah.
And, unless it's a dire emergency, I will be back at this particular time. And so
Did you feel
that,
guilty about that? Did you struggle with
oh,
it or what?
sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There were times when I would. I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of like, take care of this. And also, I would, I went on a retreat with go on retreats with my mastermind group and other groups of people and get away for weekends and that kind of
Yeah.
thing where I didn't take my wife or try to do all of that. And so that was a big, I guess, lifesaver, I guess, in a way for me, is to
Yeah.
give
I bet.
myself a chance to do that.
A break,
And
a chance to breathe.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
so I think those are giving yourself permission for downtime. I think one of the things that is so ingrained in us, just in our culture, is this whole hustle thing,
Mm-hmm.
the whole hustle culture, and you've got to work hard and you've got to be driven and all of that sort of thing. And really, you don't. It's kind of like I really got into using I'm a big proponent of the full focus planner, which I've used for several years. Know it exactly. So
I just held
yeah,
up y'all on the camera of my full focus planner, which I have
yeah,
sitting right
yeah,
beside me. That's
yeah. It's
funny.
mine's
I
the
love
same
it.
right
We have the
here. Yeah.
same one. I love
And
that.
so, yeah, and so that's kind of my second brain. But I would get, yeah, that one of the things I realized is that you can put all these systems in place and try to really focus in on good time management and writing things down and organizing your time. But what ends up happening is you end up spending a lot of time doing that.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
there's a book that I read recently called 4,000 Weeks,
Oh yeah. That's
and it's
Oliver
by
Berkman.
yes, yeah,
Oliver
that's the
Berkman.
book, and
Yeah.
I recommend that book for anybody. It's because I think what it does is it gives you permission to just slow down, to really look at what is really important, what really does have to be done, and not because I think we can create for ourselves a lot of busy work and a lot of things that really just aren't that important,
Yeah.
and put a lot of time into that. And so I think through my wife's illness, I really allowed me to really hone in on, okay, what really is important?
What matters most.
What matters most right now?
Yeah. So Gordon, do you have any tips or advice for clinicians, for helpers? Because it doesn't have to just be therapists. It can be energy healers, massage therapists, anybody who's in
Mhm.
the process of working with other people in a deep and closely and personal way. Do you have any advice or guidance for folks to like what are some red flags to look out for where maybe you might not be handling it as well as you think, or maybe your systems aren't supported, where like warning signs that there's something here you need to be paying attention to. You think you're doing just fine, but maybe you're not. Is there anything in particular that jumps out at you that
Well,
you, yeah,
yeah, and unfortunately, most of us in our fields in the mental health field, we're pretty emotionally intelligent. But I
mm,
think having some emotional intelligence and really recognizing, okay, when I am faced with big emotions or big things, what's the best way for me to cope with that in a
yeah,
healthy way? Of really recognizing that for yourself. And also just paying attention to, yeah, are you getting angry a lot? Are you getting irritated a lot? Are you having trouble sleeping? And just all the things. Are you drinking too much alcohol? Are you just
yeah,
all of the things that we know are just kind of warning signs of things. And then also just getting feedback from others, going back to that thing around mentorship and that kind of thing, of having those friends that and people close to you that you can say, well, how do you think I'm doing? What are you
right,
noticing about me that maybe I'm
right,
not I'm not aware of or not paying attention to? And
yeah.
so I think those are important things. But the basic stuff of eating well, sleeping, exercising, all of those kinds of things really really do matter. And
And they
so
matter
being able
more.
to
They matter more when things are like this than any other time,
That's right.
right?
And
Yeah.
so probably I had a little story here. Had a friend of mine that was gone to the doctor, and he was having some struggles with his weight and his blood sugar and all that kind of stuff. And the doctor said, "Well, why don't we get the nutritionist to come in and talk to you?" And so the nutritionist came in and started, and he just paused him and said, "Look, it's not a knowledge problem that's here. It's an implementation problem."
Right.
And I think that's true for us as therapists when it comes to our own kind of mental health and our own self care. It's not a knowledge problem we lack, it's an
Yeah.
implementation problem. So, as I like to say a lot, yeah, I think a lot of it is giving ourselves permission to do those things that we know that we tell our clients to do and what we work with them to do every single day.
Walk your talk. Walk your
Exactly.
talk. Yeah. Yeah. There's so many things that you're saying that I'm like, I could talk a long time about just that or like to dive into that a little bit more.
Hmm.
What I'm hearing you say that I think is so important here is that you have been quite deliberate and conscious about the role of ritual and structure
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
supporting you emotionally,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? And as a business
Yeah.
owner, as a
Hmm.
dad, as a husband, and
Hmm.
as a practice owner.
Right.
It's not something that just sort of it just happened. You just like it just kind of worked out. Because I'm the thing that's striking me as you're talking is you're talking about so matter of fact, like it's all just fine. You just kind of do this and this and this. It's all good. And I'm like, I know good and well this was not easy.
Hmm.
And that
Hmm.
it's easy to talk about it now because it's in the past, but
Hmm.
10, 13 years
Hmm.
of holding, as healers, we are holding space for people all the time, right?
Hmm.
We are containers that carry emotion for everybody, really. And an important part of our professional life is learning how to do that in an effective and helpful way and how to set that
Hmm.
down. But
Yeah.
Lord have mercy
Hmm.
when your spouse, your partner, your children, your parents, people you love, or for that matter, yourself, if you got, your own challenges, when you're carrying that too, it can get really, really, really heavy. And I
Hmm.
think the cool takeaway that I'm getting from this conversation is that it won't work unless you are paying really close attention and you set yourself and your business up on purpose to
Hmm.
serve you so that you can
Hmm.
continue to be there for everybody else. In every way, Gordon, you did it in every way. You did it financially, you did it systems wise, you did it physically with your going for
Hmm.
your walks, you did it emotionally with pulling in a therapist and pulling in your mastermind and pulling your buddies, like over and over and over again. And not to mention your spiritual background, your faith, over and over and over again, you have like put the pieces in place put the structure in place that was going to hold you up so that you could be there and make it through 13 years worth of hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's inspiring,
Well, I
and I
will.
really appreciate it.
Yeah. Well. Thank you for saying that. But I will say that I did have a lot of pieces in place, but there are also a lot of cracks in those pieces.
Of course.
And so, yeah.
Yeah.
And so you have to be able to.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that I would say is being able to be flexible, being able to accept the fact that you're going to have to change horses in the middle of the stream, and that there's going to be other things that are going to come up, and it's not going to necessarily just flow like clockwork.
Yeah.
It never does. I mean, there's
No.
so many times where, okay, I'm planning to do this particular thing and I've got this off. Well, guess what? There's
Yeah.
something else that has come up. I've
Yeah.
got a doctor's appointment I got to get my wife to, or she's gotten some sort of infection. We got
Yeah.
to attend to those kinds of things. And,
Yeah.
and, and so being able to embrace the fact that there's constant change,
Yeah.
and that you are going to be able to navigate that. I tell clients all the time, just thinking about all those different things can create a lot of anxiety. And I like to say that anxiety has a way of tricking us into thinking we can't handle things, but we do handle
Of
things, and
course
it
we
might
do.
be messy and it might
Yep.
be painful and it might be messy, but we're going to, you muddle through it.
Yeah. You muddle through it. Um, I'm so glad you're saying this because this is an important point too, in that no matter how good you are at setting up your systems and aligning your support and doing all the right things, you're still going to have days when you're a complete mess. And you're still, I just wrote down open to disruption, that
Hmm.
all the planning in the world is only going to work so far. Things are still going to happen. There's still going to be earthquakes and tornadoes, and somehow or another you have to kind of hang on and get through them. And your point
Right.
is beautiful. You will get through them. You will get through them.
Hmm.
You said earlier it's about like the frog boiling in the you just don't. I often think I'm
Hmm.
glad I don't know what's coming because
Yeah.
I'd just as
Right.
soon not, honestly.
All right.
Yeah,
Right.
my dad's path with dementia was a good 10 years, about the same.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and you just sort of like you one foot in front of the other, you just sort of figure it out as you go. And as it gets
Hmm.
harder, you figure that out too.
All right.
Um, so tell
Yeah.
me this. So what I'd like to know at this point, this is living with that level of intensity for so long, and then
Hmm.
you're past it. Then what? So, like, what has that been like for you these last couple of years? What has the coming back up for air, coming back out into the light, and like, oh, life is moving on? How about that? Like, what
Yeah.
has that been like for you, both as a practice owner and just as a human being?
Yeah. On one hand, it's very foreign territory, and so, like I said earlier, finding the new normal, and quite frankly, too. I mean, this doesn't diminish, how much I love my wife and that sort of thing, but it's been a huge relief. I don't have all of that on my plate anymore,
Yeah.
and so really, I think the theme for this last year that I'm really figuring out is, okay, what do I want for me? Because I've been so focused on what needed to be done for others. And so really defining what it is that I want for me. What is
It's a
it that
little
I
tricky too, isn't it?
need? Yeah, what I
Yeah.
need for me in this time and space, and
Yeah.
recognizing that too. I guess in many ways the exciting point is that the sky's the limit. I've been able to finally been able to travel more. In fact, next week, end of next week, I'm going to be going to Scotland on
Oh, yeah. I forgot about
yeah,
that.
yeah, on
Ah,
a pilgrimage to the island of Iona. So that's going to be a
ah,
big kind of spiritual trip for me, but also just I've always wanted to go to the British Isles and never
I'm
have. And so
so
now I've
jealous.
got, last year I went to Spain and with a group of
Mm.
friends. And so it's, yeah. And so being able to allow myself to do these things that I've always wanted to do, and not feel guilty about it. That's also
Yeah.
and still you get, there's kind of a, when you've been in it, the caregiving and all of that kind of stuff, it's for as long as I've done it, there's still this kind of muscle memory or whatever you want to call it, where you still think, oh, I need to go.
Yep.
No, I don't. It's kind of like,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. It takes a while to sort of loosen that grip. It's you're so used to holding on.
Yeah.
I think it's worth it to sort of like look at that for just a little bit too, because it's not as easy as you would think. And
Right.
sometimes we're fine during crisis. It's when the crisis is over that we're like, now what do I do? Have you
Yeah.
found
Right.
yourself, like, has it affected your work at all? Did you find yourself wanting to work more, or kind of like throwing yourself back into your practice? Or is it more like, I don't want to do anything now? Like, how has it
Yeah, yeah,
impacted you
and
that
so
way?
yeah, the latter of that would probably be more
Don't want
true.
to do
I've just
anything.
really, yeah, it's just kind of like I've allowed myself to do that. I've kept
Yeah.
the podcast going, and which I've just made a commitment to doing that, but just really thinking about, okay, what does this next phase of life want to look like for me? How do I want to spend my time?
Gosh.
How do I want to what do I want to put my energy into? What I want to say no to? What do I want to
Yeah.
say yes to? All of those
Yeah.
kinds of things. And so being able to, like I say, give myself permission to do those things.
I love that. I love that for you.
Hmm.
I love that
Hmm.
for you. I'm so glad that that's where you are. I relate to you. I'm a little bit like that. I'm kind of in a similar place.
Hmm.
Not quite where you are, but there's a lot of things I can relate to with that.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful question to be able to ask. What do I want
Hmm.
now?
Yeah.
I've always said that my two favorite words in the English language are yet and next. I haven't done that yet, and I wonder what's
Uh-huh.
next, you know?
Yeah. Right.
um,
Right.
yeah, this is great. So thank you for this, Gordon. I've been making a few notes as we go along, and if you need another course, I've come up with like 7 points that you've used to get
Okay.
through all this. Okay, so I can give that to you.
Okay. Yeah. I'll get that from you for sure. Yeah.
It's really quite, it's really specific and intentional the way you
Uh-huh.
have coped with all this.
Hmm. Yeah.
So thank you. Where can people learn more about you? Where can they find your podcast? Where can they find your, like, where would you like to send people who would like to learn more from you?
Sure. The easiest thing would just be go to my website, practiceoftherapy.com. And podcast, the Practice of Therapy podcast, you can find it anywhere you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, just any of them.
There you go.
It's on all, I've got it pretty much on all of them, and also on YouTube. We started putting the recordings of the podcast on YouTube, the visuals. So if you want to see people's pictures in a frame and yeah, see us actually talking. I think a lot of people like the visual and be able to put faces with the
Yeah.
voice and that kind of thing. So we're doing that now as well.
I have not been doing that. Like, I do not have the bandwidth to do that, but maybe
Hmm.
that's around the corner. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
great. So, yeah.
not to get on too much of a tangent, but I think one of the things that I've learned is that usually simpler is better. And so whatever is simplest for you to do, I mean, it's easy to get caught up with all the bells and whistles and shiny
Amen.
lights, but yeah, but simple
Yeah.
is better.
Simple's better. So Practice of Therapy, y'all. That's his
Hmm.
podcast and that's his website, Practice of Therapy. Unless you're in the Tri-Cities area. So
Hmm.
Tri-Cities is Bristol, Kingsport, and Johnson City. And bringing us back to the beginning, where when Gordon said he is lucky to live in the Appalachians, it is a really, really pretty area there. And it's right around East
Hmm.
Tennessee State University, which is an excellent,
Hmm.
excellent school. I often have fantasized about moving to that corner of the world, this Southwest
Uh-huh.
Virginia, Upper East
Yes.
Tennessee.
Uh-huh.
It's a beautiful
Yeah,
place.
it really is. It really
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this today. It's been, I think,
Yes.
really helpful and some very good, kind of clear guidance and reminders about what you have to do. You know, something we don't talk about so much is that when you run a practice, you have not only do you have this entity that you want to take care of, but you have an ethical obligation to make sure
Hmm.
that your business is successful because it supports your clients, it supports whatever staff you might have, and you are the key to all of it. So much less what's
Right.
going on with family. So it's important. So Gordon, I always like to close by asking before we wrap: is there anything that I have not asked you, anything I have forgotten to address, or anything that you just feel called to share that you think would make this conversation complete?
Well, I think the one thing is that our relationships are important and our community is important. And you know, it's it's easy for us to get ourselves isolated behind a screen.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important to have those people in your life where you can have that contact. Just not only the physical contact, but the emotional contact, and being able to find those people that you can be
Yeah.
truly intimate with, not necessarily ooh la la intimacy, but I mean, just being able to share your internal world with, and
Yeah.
it be a safe place to do that.
Yeah. Uh, so true.
Mm.
So true. So get out from
Yeah.
behind your computers, y'all, and go find somebody. And if you don't have anybody,
Right.
work at it. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
You're
Right.
right on. So I mentioned that's brilliant, and that is a perfect place to bring us to, because ultimately that's what's going to keep you going no matter what. So make sure you have those people in your life. Well, thank
Yes.
you, Gordon, and those of you folks out there, if you're listening to this, please pay attention to the stories that he has shared with us today. You're in a much better place, aren't you, Gordon? Today,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
you're
pretty
in a
good
really good
place.
place.
Yeah.
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 I would be too if I was going to the island of Iona next week.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think, guys, I think what I want you all to really pull from this is that Gordon has been quite intentional about how he has designed his life and his business. And it turned out to be a really good thing because he needed to do that. And
hmm
as he said, there have been cracks all along the way, of course. So go make some friends, get out and connect with your colleagues, do what you need to do to put those things in place now so you have them when you need them.
All
And with
right.
that, we will pull this to a close. Thank you, Gordon, for being here today.
Thank you
Um,
for having me.
you are very welcome. I love it. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. And y'all have an awesome week. And I'll see you next year. Next year? Not next year. Next week, right here
hmm
on the Ideal Practice Podcast. Bye now. Hey, y'all. If this program has become important to you, if Ideal Practice matters, it would mean so much to me if you'd be willing to take just a minute to do one or two of the following things. First of all, would you follow or subscribe to the show here at Ideal Practice? Following me helps you because you'll never miss an episode, but it helps me as well for all kinds of reasons. To do that, all you have to do is go to the show page for Ideal Practice on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. There, just click on the plus sign that you'll usually find in the top right-hand corner, or click on the word follow that you're going to find somewhere there on that page. Of all the things, this really is the most important thing you can do for the podcast itself. While you're there, it would be extra special if you would be willing to give me a 5-star rating, and even better than that, a review with your own words. Your words matter. And when you write what you feel, what you think, you uplift and encourage others. And I love that. If you want to go a step further than that, take your favorite episode or two, one of the ones that has meant a lot to you, and share it with a friend. Could you do one or two of those things for me? I promise I will love you forever. You guys matter to me, and I value your support more than I can possibly say. Thank you, sweet friend, for anything you can do to help me out and support the show. I'll see you again soon.